Okay, let me get right into this. You know, sometimes I hear people question whether, marriage is for today, uh, whether relationships is for today. Every man like this, every woman like that. Ain't nobody doing this no more. Monogamy ain't this, and this and that and that's and so, right? This is something that I think people are overlooking if they feel like that, or starting to feel like that, or starting to have those questions, right? I think people are overlooking themselves. How you have to, because most people not going, and even not with bad intentions, but most people, when they going through something, I think without even thinking about it, you automatically projecting, you automatically, looking elsewhere. A lot of times people not really putting a mirror in front of them and saying, okay, what about me in this situation, right? Because a lot of times, people be, especially if you a person who actually means well, you are well intended, you are good intended when entering these type of situations as far as relationships and stuff go, right? If you feel like you are well intended and things not going right, or things consistently going wrong, then you can start to question, well, is this for today? Are people really doing this today? That's old fashioned or whatever. This and that doesn't so. But let me present this example for you, right? Because even with good intentions, you can still fall victim to this. And if you got bad intentions, then, well, you kind of know why, things might be going wrong. Your intentions may not be good from the start. But let's say I got a canned good, right? And, I'm looking around to open up the canned good. I need something. I grab a knife. I start opening up the canned good. I get it open. I make my soup or whatever. And that's that. And say the next day I'm trying to open up another canned good, right? I grab that knife. I get the canned good open, make my soup. I'm good. Let's say the third day I got some fruits, vegetables, and I got some meat that I'm about to cut up. I grab that knife. And when I go to cut up the vegetables, the knife not really getting it done. I try to cut up the fruit, the meat, the knife not getting it done. And then I get, I look at the knife, throw the knife, oh man, what's the use of even having a knife if I can't even cut up some vegetables and some fruit? In that instance, I would be overlooking that I was misusing the knife in the first place. And when it's time to use the knife for what it's used for, it's not functioning the way it's supposed to function. It's dull, it's worn out, it's damaged, right? And now I look at the knife and throw the knife, instead of actually putting that mirror up and saying, okay, how have I been operating when using this knife? In this instance, how have I really been operating, even with good intent? Push your good intent to the side right now, because what I'm saying is irrelevant. Because you can still misuse them romantic, emotional feelings, even if you got good intent, right? You can still not be operating right when using it. And it can produce certain results that you don't really want. Now, as far as looking in the mirror, right? If, you a woman or you're a man, and you say, man, no, things not working out, man, every dude I deal with is like this. Every woman I deal with is like that. For the most part, this ain't working, that ain't working. I mean, seriously, this is not a judgment or a finger point. This is a real question. Because you are the person that's making the decision to deal with these people. So, do you ever really size up? And why do I keep picking these people and it always going just like horribly wrong? It's just like, man, I keep saying dudes ain't nothing, women ain't nothing, but I got the most control in this scenario as far as who I'm gonna pick, deal with, how I'm gonna relate to them, how far, you have all that control, and with all that control you have, you keep picking people that lead you to start believing or saying that men ain't no good or women ain't no good, or that marriage isn't for today or relationships isn't for today. Did you ever really look in the mirror, right? Because look, relationships are supposed to work. Are people really not supposed to be creating families and stuff like that? But mankind not just supposed to cease because everybody say men ain't no good, women ain't no good, ain't make no sense to deal with them, and nobody procreate, and that should be the end of existence. No. But if you've been using that knife to open up a canned good, yeah, that knife gonna get dull, and then you can say, oh man, what's the use? It's not working. But you still gotta, like I said, you can't overlook how have you been using your romance and how have you been using your sex. Like you hear me say in prior videos, if you watch the videos that I make. I think one big thing that's been happening in relation to women and men, but specifically women, but with men too, is that just that feeling of companionship, that natural, which is a natural, I believe, just a natural desire, something that's naturally in us. You nobody have to teach you this. You don't have to learn this. It's that natural desire for companionship, and I'm talking about companionship in like that romantic type of way, right? I think that just has rulership over how people feel in their decisions. I think some people just believe that they are incomplete in life until that is fulfilled. I feel like people feel like if you're not in that type of situation, you don't have that going on, that you are just automatically missing something in life, right? And then just that thought, that feeling, that perspective, that just govern how you deal with people when it comes to romance and sex, right? I mean, and if that's the case, even with good intentions, and even though that feeling that you got, it's not like it's something wrong or that you did nothing, it's a natural feeling. There's nothing wrong with having that feeling, right? So sometimes just having that just overwhelming feeling for companionship, or that perspective that if you're not in a relationship, something is wrong, or you can't be complete in life, or because you hear people say, oh, you're gonna die a lonely old woman. First of all, just because you're single don't mean you're lonely. I know. I'm single, but I'm not lonely. And I'm definitely not anti-marriage, but for people to think that if you're not dealing with somebody, if you're not in a relationship, you can't be completed in life. You can't really be ultimately fulfilled in life. That to me, that's dangerous, right? You need to be a complete you, period. If you have somebody that you're dealing with romantically or not, your completeness, your fulfillment shouldn't be dependent upon another individual, right? Do they have that much control over how you gonna ultimately feel about yourself, or your worth, or your fulfillment in life? It shouldn't be that way. That's why that thing needs to be groomed right. And on the flip side of that, men do the same thing with that sexual desire and feeling. They let that lead them and guide them around into different situations, right? Not saying women don't, but like I said in another video I made called Real Sex and Relationship Talk, I do believe that from a natural point of view, and I talk about when society and upbringing and nurturing and all that get in the mix, from a natural point of view, men would be quicker to go have sex with somebody that they don't know than women. So, is life ultimately about being in a relationship? Is life ultimately about having sex? No. That's not what life, look, there's nothing wrong with being in a relationship. There's nothing wrong with being married and then having sex. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Actually, getting married, having sex, marriage and sex inside that marriage, that's a good thing. Hey, you can procreate, have a family, raise it. Those are all good things, right? But to think life is incomplete without it, and not really grooming those things properly and having a proper perspective and having a proper attachments to those things. But yeah, for those things to be groomed right and groomed properly is the thing. If you don't do that, even with good intentions, those natural desires can just overwhelm your thought process, your perspective on life, and bam, now you can just be using it in an improper way with good intentions. And when I say in an improper way, what I'm really saying is you letting that think on your behalf and having you get in situations just to fulfill that feeling rather than being purposeful and intentional about it. That's what I'm saying when I say in an improper way.